Disclaimer: this animated lift tour was recreated with permission from the original user. Kia ora whānau, got another animated lift tour for you today. Yet another recreation of an older animated lift tour by the Ellis channel, and this is actually his birthday special. So happy birthday, mate. I'm sure the comments and live chat will be exploding by now. So the Ellis Centre. If you do not remember Alex ever making anything about this place, well, that's because it was originally the King's Arcade and I've just renamed it at his request. You will also notice that the map looks a bit different. Well, as I said in my previous animated lift tour, a lot can change about a building in a decade's time. So this arcade opened in the 1960s as the King's Arcade. Interesting naming choice considering Queen Elizabeth II would have already taken the throne the decade prior, but I digress. The shopping arcade was followed by a multi-story car park owned by the city council, opening next to it in 1984. Now, over the years, especially with the eventual opening of the two main Apriltown malls in 1990 and 1999 respectively, tenants started to move out of the King's Arcade, and it had kind of just sat forlorn for the next few decades with minimal traffic. Though throughout the late 2000s and into the 2010s, the arcade did go under quite a bit of refurbishment, with the installing of a few elevators by companies who basically took turns holding the maintenance contract. Since 2014, it has been handed back to Kone, which is at least positive. Obviously, COVID decimated the business of this arcade, and in 2020, the owners decided to sell it to Precinct Properties, a very real management company of large-scale real estate like this. The arcade went through copious amounts of renovation and refurbishment, including buying up the adjacent shop lots to basically convert the place more into a shopping centre than an arcade, and it was reopened as the Ellis Centre in 2021. Now, fortunately, the real 60s bits of the original arcade were preserved to an extent, but now the place feels really lively and modern again, and some all-new flagships have moved into the bigger shop lots. The redevelopments also include building a brand new 18-story office tower sitting right at the back of the new section. So this is what the place looked like in 2014 when Alex documented it, and this is what it looks like today. Pretty nice glow up, eh? We're gonna start in the car park, which throughout this whole ordeal has largely remained untouched because it's council owned and they kinda do their own things. Starting with the elevators coming in from the High Street, which used to be a set of two Otis Lexans from 1984 with mix and match Dewhurst buttons, but since then they seem to have been modernized by Schindler and are now 6500s. Given how they all look, I'd like to think these are quite recent jobs too. They're also a bit slow now, which is disappointing. The next car park elevators are the ones serving Alex Street down the back. Yes, we are chock full of these references today, folks, bear with me. These are also a set of two and also from 1984, however these ones are actually express lifts. They're still fully original and they are much faster than the 6500s. The last set of car park elevators are right at the link to the arcade and I believe may actually be mall owned rather than council owned. These are a pair of lifts by the Associated Lift Services, maybe known to most enthusiasts as ALS. Not Associated Lifts. When we get to that one, I'll explain the difference. This is the UK-based lift company with a distinctive voice unit. Noteworthily, these only announce floor messages on the arcade levels ground 1 and 2 for some strange reason, and also on the arcade floors only, these have had their LOPs replaced with Kone KSS 140, so I think these are considered part of the arcade despite also serving the car park.
Doors closing. Second floor. Doors opening. Lift going up. Doors closing. Doors opening. Doors closing. Doors Doors opening. Doors closing. Doors opening. Lift going down. Doors closing. First floor. Doors opening. Lift going down. Doors closing. Ground floor. Doors opening.
Now we come to our first totally new elevator of this lift tour. It's the elevator in Cos. Now Cos and MECCA occupy a space that used to just be a single large flagship shop lot spanning all 3 floors of the arcade. We don't know what shop it was because it had already closed down and sat abandoned as of Alex's visit. However, we do know what the original lift in there was. It was just a hydraulic supplied by Phoenix Elevators. In 2017, Cos moved in and occupied all 3 floors, but they actually split the lot in half. Apparently, the other half was home to a bunch of pop-up stores and $2 shops for a while before MECCA finally took permanent residence in 2023. But we'll get to that. The lift in Cos here actually sits in the spot where the Phoenix used to be. Now it is a Kone monospace MRL with KSS 280 fixtures. The floor numbering in this lift is completely wrong. It's meant to be ground 1 and 2, not 1, 2 and 3. It seems Cos stores tend to default to 1 as the lowest floor though. Don't know why. Into one of the main lifts of the original King's Arcade now. This is another Kone monospace MRL but from 2009 this time and with the more typical KSS 470 fixtures. This is actually the only eco disc here with the iconic brake clunk. Interestingly enough, much like Sylvia Park, the G button has been replaced with KSS 520. The next lift may well be the oldest surviving one in the shopping centre itself. It is by Associated Lifts from, I'm guessing, the early to mid 2000s. From what we know, they were the first to get a hold of the maintenance contract even before Phoenix, and it seems this was the first new lift installed in the King's Arcade. Now, Associated Lifts is distinct from the Associated Lift Services. The former is actually Kiwi-based and is very much considered a third-party company here. Maybe not that interesting, but the barely audible ferry horn motor does save it big time. And now we come to easily the worst elevator in the entire centre, and I chalk this up majorly to neglect over the years. This is a Phoenix Hydro, actually the last remaining Phoenix Hydro here, and to say it's in bad condition would be a major understatement. I'm honestly surprised they did nothing about this lift during the big refurbishments. I mean, they have restricted it, but just with signs up, so it's still callable, and I still rode it, and I probably shouldn't have, as I always felt like I was going to get stuck. Now to the last of the original King's Arcade lifts, and also technically the oldest. This was an old pre-Lex and Otis dating all the way back to the 1960s when the arcade first opened, and it was the last surviving original lift following the initial refurbishments. But after its continued unreliability, they decided to replace it with a cheap Lift-Tech generic elevator. Then, after this lift was rumoured to not work very well either, Kone stepped in and replaced it again following the 2020 redevelopment with a really nice monospace. If you know me, you know I'm normally really against lift upgrades less than a decade apart, especially if you're fully replacing it. But if ever a lift deserved it, it was probably this one.
Going up. Second floor. Ground floor. First floor. Going up. Second floor. Going down. Ground floor. Going up.
We come now to MECCA, which, as I said, completely moved into the bottom two floors right next to COS in 2023. And in a very similar fashion to MECCA in Christchurch, the lift here is a glass Otis Gen 3 MRL. Does this count as my first Otis Gen 3 then? On the upper floor of MECCA, there is actually another lift that takes people up to the Timezone Games Arcade. Now, Timezone moved into level 2 more or less at the same time as COS, maybe slightly after, but still. For ages, it never had direct lift access, only escalators, because, well, you could quite easily just take one of the mall lifts up to level 2 and then walk in. Well, that all changed in 2021 when Otis, for whatever reason, decided to put in a new Gen 2 regen that now opens straight into Timezone. For what it's worth, it is a bit better than most Gen 2 regens on the sole basis of it being scenic, but otherwise nothing much more than decent really. Still don't really get the point of it. I've saved the best 3 lifts for last. Into the Apple Store now, which for some peculiar reason is assigned lift number 22. This is a Kone monospace from 2020 with KSS 280 and the American Kone voice. Absolutely awesome.
Going down. Doors closing. Ground floor. Doors opening. Doors closing. Second floor. Doors opening. Going down. Doors closing. Mezzanine floor. Doors opening. Doors closing. Ground floor. Doors opening.
The next lifts are the main ones for the new extension wing of the Ellis Centre. These are a set of 3 Kone monospaces with KDS 330 dot matrix, although it's the first time I'm seeing it paired with these lanterns. And as well as the 3 more levels, they also serve the new underground car park and the upstairs toilets on level 3.
Going down.
Doors closing.
Floor -3.
Doors opening. Doors closing.
First floor.
Doors opening.
Going up.
Doors closing.
Second floor.
Doors opening. Doors closing.
Third floor.
Doors opening. Doors closing. Ground floor. Doors opening.
Going up.
Right, now to the last elevators of this tour, which are of course the elevators in the brand new ANZ Tower. These are all high-rise Kone mini-space tractions with destination dispatch. Unfortunately, unlike a few Kone destinations, these ones only show the unlocked floors on the panel outside, so I had to get the full floor numbering from one of the tenant directories they had up. Inside the lifts, there are 2 COPs, each speccing either a native LED dot matrix indicator or a large Pixel Tech LCD one. Take your pick.
Going out. Going down. Eighth floor. Going down.